I got into one of the German scholarships. They're called 13 Begabtenförderungswerke in German. And I got into one of those, but I applied for 3. So I'd like to give you some perspective. I've been in the Friedrich Naumann Stiftung for almost 4 years now. They have supported me during my 2 exchange semesters at National University Singapore and also throughout my basically entire bachelor's degree. I'd like to share with you how I got in and also where and how I think I might have failed in my other 2 attempts. The other 2 scholarships I applied to were Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and the Studienstiftung. So, the first time I applied to the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, it was right after my A-level exams before entering university. I was not sure about what I wanted exactly, and I was not confident. And that reflected in the way that I was talking. I was not making a real argument in my essays, in my statement about myself. You're supposed to write a CV, a written out CV basically for that scholarship. So I also didn't ask anybody for feedback. With the other 2 scholarships where I got into the interview round each time, I had written my statement of purpose, my CV, etc., and had people look through it and over it, which I think adds another level of seriousness to it, which I think is super important for any application that you're making. So basically, the first application, I wasn't serious enough for getting in, so that's why I didn't get it. The second time, okay, so the first application was I was actually waitlisted. I was not declined, I was waitlisted. But then I also never heard back from them, and I didn't care either, because I got into the interview round for the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. And there, I think what I did right in this case was I really did my homework. I researched what the scholarship stands for, what its values are, and in my case, it was freedom. It has a certain ideology that they like to nurture. They have certain individuals they like to nurture. So I tried to frame my life story into their ideology. For example, they stand for freedom. Okay, my mom came from China to Germany to offer me a better future, which for me stands for freedom, right? And I have the freedom to decide what to study, to do different things. That for me is freedom. So I do use a lot of storytelling in my applications, which I think is crucial for any application you make, but especially for scholarships. And it's so much easier in scholarships than for other companies maybe, because they are really open and transparent about what they're looking for. So as long as you read what they say and you provide that, then I'm sure that you have chances of getting in. Of course, you need to have good grades and you need to have fostered great relationship with your teachers in school or whoever is going to give you letters of recommendation. So that's always important. I think there are 3 stages in a successful application. The first stage is the philosophy of your life. So there are things that you can't do or that are too late if you start only by the time that you have decided that you want to apply. For example, growing the relationship with my teachers in high school took years, right? You go to school every day and you make an impression every single day. And then the good grades are accumulated over time. The extracurricular activities that I could pick and choose from, because I did so much in high school, I could just pick and choose what I'd like to talk about. The volunteering that I did, even the teachers, I could pick and choose from. So I knew that if this teacher has no time, I can still ask the other ones. So that's, I'd say, opportunities or help that you get. I'm sorry if this background is too noisy. Maybe I should close the window. That you get. So that's the first stage. And when you're watching this video, probably it's too late at this point to work on that. And if it is, you can tell me and maybe you can see what we can do, or you can make an extra video about what to do if you are on the later stages and you didn't accumulate those kind of connections or volunteering experiences that are actually crucial. So I'm talking to you from a place of, okay, if you have 3 years to go until you want to apply for a scholarship or start university, this is what you need to be doing. okay, and now I will move on to, okay, let's say the deadline is in 2 months or in 1 month or in like 1 week. This is what you can do. So now the second part or stage of the application is writing your essays, doing your homework first, and then writing your essays and structuring the identity that you have in a way that makes sense, that is embedded well into the scholarship's foundations, architecture, framework, and philosophy. That is super important no matter where you're applying to. And then the third stage is when you have gotten the interview, you have gotten the invite, is to know exactly which kind of person they'd like you to portray, which kind of values you'd like to portray. I mean, basically, if you go to acting school for your entire life, you learn how to act, how to talk to people, then actually this may come more natural to you. But if you haven't and you don't know how to act, which I myself don't know, I've never learned how to act, I try to embody or try to let those things within me that match this foundation manifest and show themselves in the way that I interact with people and show up in the world. That is a very powerful thing you can do, especially if you have a lot of self-insight and access to how you're feeling, your emotions and your aspirations that really translate to the outside world. I think the timing of the application is also extremely crucial. For example, when I applied to my second foundation, I knew enough to get in. I had enough extracurricular activities. I had enough things that connected to their philosophies that I could get into the interview. But I also didn't know enough to lose my confidence. So I was super confident. I had all of these visions for myself. I was full of desire and curiosity that I think was contagious. But then when I applied to the third internship, to the third foundation, I was hustling every single day for my computer science exams and assignments, and I got 20% for every assignment, and I worked every day from morning to night, and I got nothing done. So by the time I got into the interview, I was between assignments, completely stressed out. I didn't know what I was doing. The confidence that I had around myself, that I had made people see and feel as well, I completely lost every fiber in me that had ever been confident before. So I definitely think that the timing of the application is super important. It should be just like right when you know enough about what you want to do, but also not be too much in the grinding process where you're like second guessing everything that you're doing. So I think that was the timing, and people can sense whether you're authentic or not. So I think authenticity was the way or how I got to my the foundation that took me in the end. And the first application I was a bit too nervous and not too confident about myself. And then the third application too, I was just lost, and I tried my hardest to not let people notice that I was actually lost. And me trying to hide that state of being, which was I was stressed and I was not sure whether I would ace my exams or not, which I tried really hard to do, and I felt like I couldn't. That is really difficult. And looking back now, the assignments weren't that difficult, and I also passed my exams quite well. I mean, I was accepted into a foreign exchange program, and I got a good grade, I'd say. I mean, people tell me that I get good grades. Also, like the average for some exams would be failed, and I may still get a B when the average is below D, right? So, but I was not happy, but many other people were when they saw my grades, but I wasn't. So, whatever it is, however you feel about yourself will definitely translate. People will definitely notice, especially those who sit in these, especially those who interview you, right? So apply it to places that you think you belong to, and see the application process as a two-way street. So you are also checking and double checking as you do your homework, as you write these essays, whether you really want this foundation to support you, whether you are a match or not. Because one way or the other, if you aren't, you will definitely notice. So you have to keep your dignity intact, if I may say that, with every single step that you take. And it has to feel right. It has to feel right. So keep with who you are and speak from that place in your heart. When I did my applications, there was no AI involved at all, so I didn't even have any AI that I could ask about help with writing my essays. But if you are using AI, I urge you to write everything without AI and maybe using it to check for grammar and writing mistakes, like spelling mistakes, which may be important if you're not a German native or if you're writing your application in English, I don't know. But you need to get your story right, and the story is only good if it's yours. If it's not, it's just you could do so much better. Like there's nothing better than who you are. Like you cannot be more than who you are, and nobody else can be who you are. You have to know that. You have to internalize that nobody can be who you are, and people want who you are and nothing else, usually. And if they want you to be something else, then you can maybe find something that aligns better with who you are. And that's about being adaptive, right? If you come to Germany from a foreign country, from a different country, and you have to adapt to a new culture, that is a very long process. It's very hard, especially, I mean, most Germans are not even educated or aware of the milestones that foreigners go through just to afford a living and stay in Germany. So it will be a long road if you are. But if you are German, count yourself very lucky. Ask for feedback. Maybe try to find classmates or students who are already in that foundation. So one thing that I did is I looked at the foundation's Instagram and social medias. And then I didn't for these foundations, but sometimes I contact people who are shown on social media and ask them for feedback. I didn't need to because I knew people in the foundations and I could ask them for advice. And now even people who know that I am in a foundation, they would contact me even after like 2 years of no contact and be like, hi, I remember that you are in this and that foundation. I'm applying this year. Can you give me any tips? So people who have gotten into any kinds of foundations or scholarship, they would always be super excited about giving you tips and helping you because they want to have people in their foundation too, who they know, who they can talk about. And I want people who apply to get in, so I would always try to give them my best advice, or try my best to give them my advice. So here's mine. I made a video about this 3 years ago already, and I was too ashamed to upload it because I thought, maybe somebody will have a better idea, or maybe there's already 3 videos on this topic out there. But this is my version, and this is how I got in. I know people who prepared for the interviews by preparing for 100 different questions and learning the answers by heart. I'm sure that some of them have gotten in. I know people who have applied for six or 7 foundations and gotten in at the 8th application. Everybody has a different journey. For my interview, I did not prepare any questions. I just remember that after the interview, I cried for an entire hour, and I felt so dumb. And the questions they asked were so difficult to answer. She asked me how cognitive science is related to to Charles Darwin's theory, or to some kind of theory. And I remember that I learned about this theory when I was in high school, but I completely forgot about the content, and I don't even know how I answered. I just stumbled my words. So the most important thing that I told myself for this interview is just to be myself, to say honestly if I don't know something, and to try to show them what I want and just be honest. Because when I'm honest and authentic, that's how people will notice, people will notice. And if you already take the time to apply and you're serious about this, people will also take you more seriously. So if you show up as somebody who you're not, they will not just notice, they will feel that you have something to hide. And that's not something people enjoy. You should also remember that you as a scholar or as a student of any foundation or of any university that takes you in, that you will take their name. Like you, as you walk around in society, their brand, you represent their brand. And if you are a hardworking student, if you are someone who's going places or who's trying to go to places and who's humble and who has certain qualities, then the foundation or university, like they can be honored to have you, like it's a two-way street. So that's always important to keep in mind. Thank you so much for watching until here, and I hope that I've been helpful. If you are one of the people who want to apply, I'm sure that you've watched this video fully and that you are watching like 10 other videos on how to getting into these places. No worries. If you're still watching and you still really want to get in, just do the work, write down the things, don't be afraid of making videos if they are part of the application process, and don't be afraid to show up as who you are. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback from people who are in the foundation or even from teachers, and be open about failures because they will probably ask you about those. Right, that's my tips. Good luck. Bye bye.